Albert Anastasia, born Umberto Anastasio on September 26, 1902, in Tropea, Italy, became one of the most feared and powerful mobsters in American history. His life is a notorious tale of organized crime, filled with murder, power struggles, and betrayals. Anastasia was involved in numerous cities across the United States as he rose to prominence, eventually becoming one of the heads of the notorious crime organization Murder, Incorporated. Here's a look at his life through the lens of various cities and his criminal activities. Early life in America. New York, 1919-1930s. Anastasia emigrated to the U.S. in 1919, settling in Brooklyn, New York. As a young man, he quickly found work on the Brooklyn docks, where violence and crime were common. In 1921, Anastasia was convicted of murdering a longshoreman, but due to witness intimidation, he was released after serving only 2 years. His ability to intimidate and eliminate threats established him as a rising force on the waterfront. Brooklyn and the rise of Murder, Incorporated, 1930s to 1940s. In the 1930s, Anastasia's violent tendencies caught the attention of crime bosses, and he became a top enforcer for the Italian-American Mafia. His ruthlessness earned him a spot as one of the leaders of Murder, Incorporated, a group of professional killers responsible for hundreds of mob-enforced murders across the U.S. Anastasia and his men operated from the back rooms of candy stores and cafes in Brooklyn, with many of the murders taking place under the direction of mob bosses like Lewis, Lepka, Buckleter. Murder, Incorporated was known for its systematic approach to murder, often carrying out contract killings at the behest of the National Crime Syndicate. Anastasia gained a reputation as the Lord High Executioner for his role in overseeing many of these killings, some of which involved torturous methods. Expanding power in Manhattan, 1940s. As Anastasia's influence grew, he moved beyond Brooklyn and into Manhattan. After serving time in World War II as part of the U.S. military, he returned to organized crime with even more ambition. In the 1940s, Anastasia was involved in a power struggle within the New York Mafia families. He aligned himself with Mafia bosses such as Lucky Luciano and Frank Costello, helping them consolidate power over New York's 5 families. In 1941, the trial of Abe Relis, a key witness who planned to testify against Murder, Incorporated, ended mysteriously when Relis fell to his death from a Coney Island hotel window while under police protection. This incident, widely believed to have been orchestrated by Anastasia's crew, was a turning point in his consolidation of power, as it helped dismantle the case against Murder, Incorporated. Philadelphia and other East Coast cities, 1940s to 1950s. Though based in New York, Anastasia had influence that spread throughout the East Coast, including cities like Philadelphia and Newark, where mafia operations controlled labor racketeering, extortion, and gambling. Anastasia was known to travel between these cities, keeping his operations tightly controlled through intimidation and violence. His influence in Philadelphia, in particular, was tied to the Gambino crime family, for whom he acted as an enforcer and later, as boss. He was feared not just for his brutality but also for his business acumen, managing union racketeering schemes, which gave him significant control over shipping, construction, and other industries reliant on unionized labor. Leadership of the Gambino crime family. New York, 1950s. By the early 1950s, Anastasia had risen to the top of the mafia hierarchy. Following the deportation of Luciano and the weakening of rival factions, Anastasia orchestrated the assassination of his former ally Vincent Mangano, allowing him to take over the Gambino family, then known as the Mangano family. His brutal reign as the head of the family cemented his legacy as one of the most violent crime bosses in American history. Anastasia had also become notorious for his unpredictable temper and brutal killings. By this time, he was known for personally killing or ordering the murders of anyone who stood in his way. His willingness to kill without hesitation made him feared not only by his enemies but by members of his own family as well. Fall of Albert Anastasia. The mob's internal war in New York, 1957. Despite his power, Anastasia's aggressive leadership style began to create enemies within the mafia. Rival mobsters, including Vito Genovese, began to plot his downfall. Genovese sought control of the mafia and viewed Anastasia as an obstacle. He formed an alliance with Carlo Gambino, who was second in command under Anastasia. Together, they planned Anastasia's assassination. On October 25, 1957, Albert Anastasia was murdered in Manhattan while sitting in a barber's chair at the Park Sheraton Hotel, now the Park Central Hotel, on 7th Avenue. The assassination was meticulously planned. As Anastasia sat in the barber's chair, 2 masked gunmen entered and shot him multiple times. Anastasia attempted to fight back, but his disorientation caused him to strike out at his own reflection in the mirror, a symbolic moment marking the end of his reign. Legacy. Albert Anastasia's murder shocked the world and marked a turning point in organized crime history. His assassination paved the way for Carlo Gambino to take over the Gambino crime family, which would go on to become one of the most powerful mafia organizations in America. Anastasia's life story is frequently explored in documentaries and books detailing the rise of the mafia in America. His involvement in the establishment of Murder Incorporated, his brutal enforcement tactics, and his eventual assassination have all been subjects of intense interest. Several documentaries recount his life, focusing on his violent rise to power, his role in creating the mafia's national structure, and the treacherous dynamics of organized crime in mid-20th century America. These films often highlight Anastasia's psychological profile, describing him as a man who was both loyal and brutal, merciless in his enforcement of mafia rules yet charismatic enough to inspire fear and loyalty among his associates. In summary, Albert Anastasia's life was defined by his brutal enforcement of mafia rule, his significant role in Murder Incorporated, and his eventual betrayal by those closest to him. His violent legacy is a reminder of the turbulent history of organized crime in America. Thanks for tuning into Sika True Crime Docs. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating tales. Your support helps us keep bringing these stories to life. See you in the next episode.